What happens when the man you once called out becomes your last hope for freedom? That's exactly where Sean Diddy Combs finds himself right now. After a shocking conviction that stunned both the music world and the public, Diddy's facing the fight of his life, with a federal sentencing just weeks away and the real possibility of spending the next 2 decades behind bars. His legal team is scrambling for a miracle, and in a twist that no one saw coming, they've turned to none other than Donald Trump. Yes, the same Trump Diddy once blasted in public, the same Trump he clashed with during one of the most heated political eras in recent history. Now, the two names are back in the headlines. But this time, it's not about fame, fortune, or feuds. It's about whether one former mogul will save the other from a future behind bars. So how did it get to this point? What did Trump really say when asked about the pardon? And what are the chances that Diddy actually walks free? Let's break it all down, because this story is just getting started. The charges and conviction. The trial lasted nearly 2 months, but it only took a few words to shatter Diddy's empire. Guilty on 2 counts. On July 2nd, in a packed federal courtroom in New York, a jury found Sean Combs guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution, a serious federal offense that now threatens to derail everything he's built over the last 3 decades. But here's what makes it even more shocking. He was acquitted on the more explosive charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. That verdict left people asking, was this justice or a calculated compromise? Diddy had pleaded not guilty to every single charge, maintaining his innocence from the moment he was arrested, back in September 2024. His legal team has painted the case as a smear campaign, arguing that the evidence was thin, the testimony flawed, and the motivations of witnesses questionable at best. But the jury didn't buy all of it. While they dismissed the most severe accusations, they landed hard on the charges that stuck, and now, those 2 convictions are enough to put him away for up to 20 years. What sealed the deal? Prosecutors claimed that Diddy not only enabled, but directly participated in transporting individuals across state lines for illegal activities. And although the defense argued there was no proof of coercion or profit-driven trafficking, the jury sided with the government. It wasn't a full-blown takedown, but it was enough. Enough to send Diddy straight to one of the country's toughest federal detention centers. Enough to make his name headline news for all the wrong reasons. And enough to leave one last desperate option on the table. But even with a guilty verdict, why is Diddy still hoping for a lifeline? And how did Trump's name suddenly enter the picture? Let's get into that. The legal fallout. Since the day of his arrest in September 2024, Sean Combs has been sitting inside the Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center, a far cry from his usual world of luxury, parties, and power. But what's even more jarring is how many times he's tried to get out and failed. 5 times. That's how often Diddy's legal team has pushed for bail, and each time, the judge shut it down. Their most recent attempt, denied on August 4th, came just 2 days after his conviction. In his ruling, Judge Arun Subramanian made it clear. Diddy wasn't going anywhere until sentencing. The court labeled him a potential flight risk, pointing to his vast wealth, global connections, and the seriousness of his crimes. Behind the scenes, insiders say Diddy is frustrated, restless, but still putting on a calm front. He's reportedly spending most of his time in isolation, rarely interacting with other inmates. For someone who built an empire on being seen, heard, and celebrated, the silence of a detention cell might be the harshest punishment of all. And the clock is ticking. Diddy's sentencing date is locked in for October 3rd. If prosecutors push for the maximum, he could be facing 2 full decades behind bars, a sentence that would keep him incarcerated well into his 70s. His empire is already showing cracks. Business partnerships have quietly backed away. Media outlets are distancing themselves. And behind closed doors, people in the industry are asking, is this the end of the Diddy era? But while the legal system may have closed its doors, one door, perhaps the most unexpected one, may still be open, and it leads straight to the White House. Because even after 5 failed bail motions and a guilty verdict, Diddy's team is chasing one last chance from the most controversial source imaginable. The pardon play. With the walls closing in and the clock ticking down to sentencing, Diddy's legal team made a bold, almost unthinkable move. They reached out to Donald Trump. That's right, the same Trump Diddy once publicly criticized is now the man who could decide his future. In an exclusive interview with CNN, Diddy's attorney Nicole Westmoreland confirmed that they've opened a line of communication with Trump's camp. Her exact words? "It's my understanding that we've reached out and had conversations in reference to a pardon." It was a quiet but calculated shift, and one that caught the media by surprise. Up until now, Diddy's defense had focused solely on courtroom strategy. But with sentencing looming, they've pivoted hard toward presidential clemency, hoping that Trump might intervene before October 3rd. But here's the catch. No one knows where Trump stands. When asked for comment, a White House official told CNN, "We will not comment on the existence or non-existence of any clemency request." No confirmation, no denial, just silence. That hasn't stopped Diddy from holding on to hope. According to Westmoreland, he is a very hopeful person, and I believe that he remains hopeful. But hope, in this case, is risky, especially when it depends on one of the most unpredictable figures in modern politics. Behind the scenes, some insiders believe the outreach wasn't just a legal move, it was strategic theater, a last-ditch effort to shift public sentiment, stir media buzz, and maybe, just maybe, get Trump's attention in the most high-profile way possible. Because if Trump grants a pardon, it won't be a quiet deal behind closed doors. It'll be a headline, a spectacle, a show of power. But what does Trump actually think about pardoning Diddy? And how does their rocky past factor into the decision? That's where things get complicated. Trump's complicated response. Donald Trump's reaction to the idea of pardoning Diddy has been anything but straightforward. When first asked about it back in May, before the trial even ended, Trump said he'd certainly look at the facts. He added, "If I think someone was mistreated, it wouldn't matter whether they like me or don't." That sounded like an open door. But fast forward to August, and things took a turn. During a recent interview with Newsmax, Trump's tone was more cautious, if not downright conflicted. He called Diddy, essentially, I guess, sort of half-innocent, a phrase that felt more like a shrug than a solid defense. Trump admitted he wasn't exactly sure whether Diddy was still in jail, but acknowledged the rapper was celebrating a victory after the trial. Here's where it gets interesting. Trump described his relationship with Diddy as once very friendly, even saying they got along great in the 1990s and early 2000s. But then the friendship soured when Diddy became very hostile during Trump's presidential run. Trump didn't hold back on how that affected him. We're human beings. We don't like to have things cloud our judgment, right? But when you knew someone and you were fine, and then you run for office and he made some terrible statement, Trump said, it's more difficult. Makes it more, I'm being honest, makes it more difficult to do. In other words, Diddy's past criticisms might have put a serious roadblock in front of any potential pardon. But here's the twist. Trump is known for surprising moves, especially when it comes to pardon. So even if emotions complicate the decision, nothing is off the table. The question is, can political grudges and personal history override the chance to grant clemency? Or will this personal rift keep Diddy behind bars? What's clear is that Trump's feelings about Diddy aren't black and white. There's a tangled mix of respect, resentment, and real politics playing out behind the scenes. And while the president's words hint hesitation, the final call could come down to far more than just past grievance. A history of friendship and fallout. Before the headlines turned dark, Donald Trump and Sean Diddy Combs shared something unexpected, a genuine friendship. Back in the 1990s and early 2000s, these two titans of media and business crossed paths frequently. Trump, already a household name with his real estate empire and TV fame, and Diddy, a rising star in the music industry, found common ground in their ambition and larger-than-life personality. Trump told Newsmax that he was very friendly with Diddy at one point, recalling how they got along great. The two mingled in exclusive circles where success was the currency, and mutual respect ran deep. But then came the turning point. When Trump launched his political career, Diddy's tone shifted dramatically. What had once been a friendly connection turned cold. Diddy became one of Trump's most vocal critics, using his platform to challenge the then-presidential candidate's policies and statements. For Trump, that change was more than political disagreement. It was personal. "We're human beings," he said. "When you knew someone, and you were fine, and then you run for office, and he made some terrible statements. It's more difficult. Their fallout wasn't just about politics. It was about trust broken and bridges burned. Now, with Diddy's legal troubles on the line and a possible pardon in the mix, the question arises, can two people with such a complicated past put their differences aside? Or is their history a permanent barrier, making any chance of clemency nearly impossible? This backstory adds another layer to the drama, because this isn't just a legal battle. It's a story of friendship lost, rivalry, and maybe, just maybe, a chance at redemption. The political chess game. Behind the headlines and courtroom drama, this pardon request is more than just a personal favor. It's a high-stakes political chess match. Granting clemency to Sean Diddy Combs isn't simply about justice or mercy. It's a move that could ripple through media, public opinion, and Trump's own legacy. Pardoning a high-profile figure with a controversial conviction carries risks that could ignite backlash from both political opponents and parts of Trump's base. Trump has always been unpredictable with pardons, sometimes surprising critics by clemency for unexpected figures. But with Diddy, there's a unique complexity: the past personal fallout, the intense public scrutiny, and the fact that Diddy is far from a political ally. There's also the timing. With the 2024 presidential election cycle heating up, every decision Trump makes is dissected under a microscope. Approving a pardon now could be spun as a power play, a move to appeal to certain voters, or conversely, a reckless gamble. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal team is no stranger to strategy. Reaching out to Trump's camp wasn't just a hopeful plea. It was a calculated attempt to put pressure on the administration, generate media buzz, and possibly sway public opinion in their favor. In the end, this is a game where every piece counts. The White House holds the ultimate power, but public sentiment, media narratives, and political calculations all weigh heavily. Will Trump play the unexpected card and grant clemency? Or will this move backfire, sealing Diddy's fate instead? Whatever happens next, it's clear this story isn't just about one man's future. It's about power, influence, and the unpredictable nature of politics at the highest level. What's next for Diddy? With the sentencing date looming on October 3rd, the clock is running out for Sean Diddy Combs. His future hangs in the balance, not just legally, but personally and professionally. If the pardon doesn't come through, Diddy faces the grim reality of potentially spending up to 20 years behind bars. That would mean stepping away from the spotlight, his business empire, and the life he's built from the ground up. But if the unexpected happens, if Trump decides to grant clemency, it would rewrite the story completely. It could save Diddy from prison, reignite his career, and spark a wave of controversy that could dominate headlines for months. Either way, one thing is clear: this battle is far from over. Diddy's legal team is pushing every angle, the media is watching closely, and the world is waiting to see what the next chapter will hold. And beyond the courtroom and politics, this case raises bigger questions about power, redemption, and the price of fame in today's world. So, what really lies ahead for Diddy? Will he be remembered for his music, his rise, and his influence? Or will this legal saga define his legacy? Only time will tell. But one thing's certain: whatever happens, this story will continue to unfold in ways no one can predict. Sean Diddy Combs' story has always been about reinvention, resilience, and rising to the top against all odds. But now, caught between the harsh realities of the justice system and the unpredictable world of politics, his fate is more uncertain than ever. Whether or not a presidential pardon comes through, this saga shines a light on something bigger: the complicated intersections of fame, power, and justice in today's world. It forces us to ask tough questions about how influence shapes outcomes and whether redemption is possible when the stakes are this high. As the days count down to sentencing, all eyes remain fixed on the unfolding drama. Will Diddy get a second chance? Or will this be a defining moment that changes everything? The truth is, in stories like this, the lines between right and wrong often blur, and that's what keeps us watching, questioning, and talking long after the cameras stop rolling. So, what do you think? Is this a story of justice served, or a powerful figure caught in a game much larger than himself? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for all the latest updates on this and other gripping stories. Because when it comes to fame, fortune, and the law, nothing is ever quite what it seems.